Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The firing squad is all lined up, and we have Empire versus Tomb Kings today, with the Tomb Kings being led by myself, and the Empires being led by This Is the Way. So we do have an initial volley of grenade launchers firing into the Tomb Kings to start things off, but we will go over the Tomb Kings army as they will be responding very shortly with their Ushapti fire. So the Tomb King army, the front line, we have some skeleton spearmen getting wrecked by a volley of Outrider grenade launchers. We do have some Tomb Guard in support on the two sides, and then some more skeleton warriors on the flanks. But the meat and potatoes of this army is going to be in the constructs, as we do have triple Ushapti great bows, one of which being the chosen of the gods with their kind of scatter shot. We do have the Eyes of the Desert Sepulchral Stalkers, good against large targets with their ranged attack, and some Necropolis Knights with halberds, very good anti-large unit as well. And the Lord is going to be Arkhan the Black on his horse, and he is going to be bringing kind of the standard kit for Arkhan, as he does have Spirit Leech, Fate of Buna, the Liber Mortis, Staff of Nagash, and the Tomb Blade of Arkhan. So that's pretty much a pretty standard kit for him. You might see him on his chariot, but otherwise those spells and abilities are pretty much what you'll see. We do have a Necrotech as well with Stone Shaper and the recovery spells, so pretty much allowing these Ushapti to trade a little bit better with any of the ranged units that the Empire might be bringing, and they do also have that recovery, so they can get some nice health back either on Necropolis Knights, Sepulchral Stalkers, or any of the Ushapti. Very good stuff indeed, as we do have the Skeleton Spearmen kind of acting as a little rear support against the mobility that the Empire will surely bring. And let's shoot on over to the Empire, as the Ushapti are already doing a very good number to those Outriders, as those shots are raining in, punishing that initial volley pretty heavily. But the front line for the Empire is going to be Sigmar's Sons, flanked by a couple of great swords. So very good unbreakable front line, and then those great swords will do fairly well against the Tomb Guard. They are the elite Empire troops, but even that's not really all that elite. Same with how the Tomb Guard are not really all that elite, even though they are the elite Tomb King forces. They are going to be flanked, of course, by some more spearmen with shields on the far flank, and the core ranged units are going to be triple huntsmen, which will do well against any of the constructs, with there are plenty of targets for them to be shooting at. We have Ushapti, and the Sepulchral Stalkers and Necropolis Knights are all nice targets for them. We do have a Hellblaster volley gun as well for the long range. Those shots will do quite a number on the Tomb King forces, especially the constructs. A lot more damage than maybe a cannon would do. You often will see cannons though instead, because they do have longer range, and they will allow for more shots to be fired in to, like Ushapti, for example, if they spam a lot of them. We do also have a couple Reiksguard and an Empire Knight unit in the rear, and we do have some Halberdiers are going to be protecting that Hellblaster. And in the skies, we do have Balthazar Gelt. He's going to be bringing Searing Doom and Plague of Rust. And he also does have the Staff of Volans, so a nice increase to power reserves and power recharge. So that is going to be our armies. And we will get things going, as these grenade launchers, they do take quite a bit of damage. So they definitely took more than they gave. They got initial volley off, but all of those Ushapti just turned and fired right off the bat, already taking off 50% of health on those grenade launchers, losing quite a few models as well. But now the Ushapti will be turning their attention to those great swords, trying to whittle them down as much as they can before they engage in melee combat. Chosen of the Gods getting some nice shots in on these great swords, already taking out some models and doing quite a bit of damage. That is a very good target for them. Otherwise, they will eventually want to be kind of targeting these Reiksguard and Empire Knights as they do get closer to range. We do have the Eyes of the Desert. They're going to be screening them out a little bit. We do have a Plague of Rust going down on these Ushapti great bows, as it looks like we have some shots are going to be raining in from these Huntsmen, and the Hellblaster volley gun targeting these Ushapti. The Necrotech is right there with his Stone Shaper, fighting a little bit extra missile resist and armor, so that will be very nice. And we do have a Searing Doom going to be dropping down onto these Necropolis Knights, but the Necropolis Knights do pull out, and they will be taking pretty much no damage from those bolts coming down. The Shopti are taking quite a bit, though. They are still taking those focus fire from all 3 of those huntsmen, and they are already getting close to about half health. They still have their 8 bottles left. They have only lost 1 so far. Otherwise, the Shopti on the flanks have started targeting the Reiksguard, and they are just firing right down the line of these units, doing a massive amount of damage, and it does look like a Fate of Buna is going to be targeting them from Arkhan the Black, doing a bunch of additional damage, and you can just see the models dropping here as more shots from the Shopti are firing in. The Liber Mortis as well, going down onto this engagement as the Great Swords have engaged, as well as a drop of skeleton warriors in the rear, and a nice little charge through the line with these Necropolis Knights getting pretty much pushing the entire skeleton spearman unit away from these warriors, and they will be pulling right back through and looking to screen out these Empire Knights as best they can. These Reiks are just taking so much shot, they weren't even able to get into these Ushapti, as the shots from the Sepulchre Stalkers and the Ushapti were able to rout them off and shatter them even before they were able to get really any damage done. Now these Chosen of the Gods are in the sights of these Empire Knights, but the Necropolis Knights just are able to get into the back of them, stopping their charge, and now the Shopti with Great Bows are firing point-blank range into them, and they were doing a little bit of friendly fire, but the damage that they are causing to these Empire Knights is going to be considerable. A lot of shots actually arcing over them, and then looks like another searing bolt are going to be coming down on top of these Shopti, not doing a whole lot of damage, just a little bit. And these Eyes of the Desert are going to be screening out these Outriders even more, as they are going to be routing. But the front line of Sigmar Sons have been able to beat back those damaged spearmen from earlier on, and the Huntsmen are going to be firing in continuously, though we do have a Ushapti summon in the rear, as these Hellblaster volley guns will be put offline. And the Halberdiers were initially moving away, but as soon as that summon went down, they do turn around and try and pull off those Ushapti, and the Hellblasters are going to be pulling off of their units as well, and we'll see if those Halberdiers are able to screen them out and save the crew, at least for the time being. The Necropolis Knights do have a restore going down, so they'll be getting a little bit of health back. They still have quite a few models. They are going to be shattering these Empire Knights and targeting this remaining unit of Reiksguard. Though the focus fire from all these Huntsmen have been able to do quite a bit of damage to these Ushapti with Great Bows, they will be crumbling, and a few more volleys will be probably all it takes to put them into the ground. But they are going to be turning their shots into these Eyes of the Desert, as they are trying to get around the flanks a bit. More of the front line is starting to break, though, for the Empire. These Great Swords are going to be routing and being chased right off the field. But these Hellblaster volley gun crew, unable to be screened out by the Halberdiers, they are going to be shattered, as that Ushapti summon has done its job and will be disintegrating very, very quickly. Liber Mortis going down just as a few shots from these Huntsmen were kind of coming into this little unit, as well as the Sigmar Sons. But Balthazar's Gelt will be retreating up into the sky, as Arkhan the Black was trying to get a little bit of damage on him. But now the Eyes of the Desert will be turning their attention to the Sigmar Sons, trying to peel off as many models as they can with their shots. We do have one unit of Spearmen have returned, but otherwise a lot of the Empire forces have been routed off. All of the mobility and a lot of the front line is kind of in shambles. You still have the Halberdiers, and you still have the Sigmar Sons, who are still at half health, so they still have quite a few models left in staying power. But pretty much all of these Shopti have used up their ammo. They're now going to be engaging in melee, chasing off these Huntsmen, and they will do just fine against the Huntsmen, making sure that they stay off, especially with the assistance of the Necrotech, who is anti-infantry. But Balthazar Gelt kind of coming in, screening them out a bit. We have Plague of Rust actually going down onto the Necrotech, as these Huntsmen are firing in point-blank range, doing actually quite a bit of damage at that range. But the Shopti and Necrotech will soon be getting right back on top of those units and shutting them down once again. Another Searing Doom going to be coming down on top of these Sepulchre Stalkers, actually doing a decent amount of damage on those shots, but they are going to try and stay away from these Halberdiers as best they can, wait for the Skeleton Warriors to get in and really peel them off. Well, the Sigmar Sons actually doing fairly well this game, able to kind of deal with a lot of the units, but the balance of power is still very much in the Tomb King's favor, as another summon from Arkhan comes down right on top of these Huntsmen. And Balthazar Gelt does drop down, neither of which are really melee combatants, so there's not really a whole lot of threat of taking a lot of sustained damage quickly. And with the assistance of the Necrotech, they could do quite a bit of hurt onto Balthazar Gelt. But now Arkhan is going to be kind of pushing forward, trying to shut down another unit of Huntsmen, as he is going to leave the other units to the Skeleton Warriors and the Necrotech. Buckle Stalkers, though, are going to be shutting down these Spearmen, getting a nice charge off, and they are going to be wavering and routing right off the field. But they are going to be hounded by these Halberdiers fairly quickly. The Skeleton Warriors are in hot pursuit, but a lot of the other units are going to be breaking down for the Empire, and that is going to be army losses, though, kicking in as all of the units do rout, except for the Sigmar Sons, who are still at 59 models. Were able to sustain themselves fairly well during this battle, but they will not be enough to turn back the tide of the Tomb Kings, and this is going to be our game, though, as the Tomb Kings will take the match, and then the Empire player does finally concede. So we'll take a little look at the after battle report. The greatswords do quite a bit of damage. They do get 158 kills, but I guess a lot of that, though, was against Tomb Guard. So they did do good work against the Tomb Guard, but the mobility for the Empire just fell so flat in this matchup. The Outriders getting an initial volley off, but I think that may have been the only volley they got off the entire game, as the Ushabti were able to keep all of those units away from the engagement, and were just able to absolutely destroy the Reiksguard and Empire Knights. They just needed maybe a little bit more pressure on the front line, perhaps a little bit more artillery even, or some more skirmish cav in forms of like Outriders, and not just the grenade launcher variant, but the handgun model as well, because that does fairly well, because the Tomb Kings, they do have some skirmishing themselves, and the Ushabti are good against our other cavalry units as long as they're able to get in range, but having enough pistoliers and stuff in addition to the pressure of the mobility usually helps a lot, and having more than just the Hellblaster. Hellblaster can do quite a bit of damage, but I think cannons are still the way to go for the Empire forces. Though the Sigmar Sons, as I was saying before, they did really good work. I was kind of surprised at just how long they were able to last. I mean, they are still just swordsmen, but they are unbreakable, and they almost racked up 200 kills. I mean, it was against some spears and skeleton warriors, but still, that is quite a bit of kills, and they just hold the line as best they can. Huntsman, actually, it was kind of a nice pick here. In addition to that, Plague of Rust can actually do some good work. Now, the Tomb King forces that I brought here, the Ushabti was kind of just I was really kind of hoping on not going up against a lot of artillery, and it did really work out. They just did so much work against the Reiksguard and Empire Knights, and they paid for themselves very, very well. The Necropolis Knights and Sepulchral Stalkers doing very good screening work as well for the back line, keeping them safe. Front line did break down fairly quickly on, especially to the Greatswords and the Sigmar Sons, but Arkhan and the Necrotech did their work very well on top of that. But that was a very good match. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good one.